Okay, thanks. Right, so hi everyone. My name's Ben Toner. I run numerous networks, and I really spend a lot of time looking at clients. So quick question first. Who here is an iPhone user? Hands up. Lots. Who here tries to use their iPhone in a Wi-Fi environment to see what's going on? Less of you. Successful or not successful? Less, maybe? Okay. The iPhone is a fantastic device, and I spend a lot of time trying to look under the hood to turn its internal logic into insights. Okay? Insights that are visible, graphable, you can use it on the device itself, you can capture logs, take them away, and look deeper. For those of you who are customers, this is a view of what's to come. There's sort of a bit of a new look. And I've tried to do this for MLO because it's exciting. It's brand new capability. But let's take a quick look and see how we've been able to do. So the official line on Wi-Fi 7 straight from Apple's website is, yeah, we do it. There are some limits. It's 160 megs. It's 1024 QAM. It's MCS 11, so on. Right, okay, good. And it mentions MLO. So we're here, and we've had a lot of conversations about MLO already, and there are people way smarter in the room who will show you packets, and they will show you all sorts of things that are absolutely great and tell a story. I'm not trying to tell you how MLO works. I'm not trying to tell you exactly what iPhone is doing. What I'm trying to do is give an indication as to whether there is an insight from the device as to what it is doing at any moment in time with respect to MLO. And that's the investigation and the story we're going on today. Francois, you're in the headlight. You wrote a post and people responded. You know, what about MLO? What is MLO? Is MLO the same between one device and one AP? All these kind of things. And people came back, and one of the things that stood out is somebody very confidently said, iPhone 16 is STR MLMR on 2.4 and 5.6, but eMLSR on 5 and 6. What does that mean? If that's true, it means it's using a single radio on 5 and 6, can't use them at the same time. But when you've got tri-band, potentially you can do some simultaneous transmission receiving. Right, okay, great. So let's see if we can see within the device's own information, if we can maybe see that, and we can come to some kind of conclusion. So as good research starts, you start with a hypothesis, you start with a question, or maybe some questions. And I'm thinking, okay, this is multi-link, and we're used to roaming, and I've seen a ton of logs on roaming. Will I see anything that tells me the difference between link selection and roaming? Will I see anything that shows me a notable aggregate in data rates when I've got multiple links? Will I see anything with regards to latency? Will I see anything with regards to resilience to interference? Well, let's see. First, a little recap. If you haven't seen it already, there's a presentation from WLPC Prague 2024 on YouTube where I go through this in a lot more detail, but the highlight is within the iPhone, and actually the Android does this at the same time as well, same way, but your measurements, it's not just RSSI value, but all your channel information goes into an algorithm and comes out as a boosted score. It's not just a boosted RSSI, there is a boosted, a sort of a data rate score as well. Okay, very good, right? But there are a ton more internal mechanisms that influence roaming, okay? So you can see it in the logs. Suppression, there's adaptive roaming within the client, which can actually turn off roaming and suppress it for a while. It's responsive to what you're doing on the device, to voice, video, Wi-Fi calling. Those are things that come out there. So on the right, you can see the logs in particular. There's external influences, right? So base station transition management, neighbor reports, fast transitions, Cisco fast lanes in there, of course, the special relationship. And there's something there, network assurance. I haven't worked that one out yet. Maybe that's for another day. So within the internal mechanisms, you have adaptive roams. And adaptive roams are actually where it will take a lot of these influences into account and change something. So when I was doing my testing, I was bringing up brand new SSIDs, and I'd spoken to Jerry, who did the first opening speech yesterday, and he'd done the same thing, and we were testing similar things. And one of the things you can see there is it says, I'm not enabling adaptive roaming, and partly, and I don't really know why, but partly, the environment is still learning. It doesn't know about the environment, whether it's home or enterprise. Network of interest type, unknown. Location of interest, well, it seems to have gathered this one as a home. Whatever it says, regardless, it's not doing adaptive roaming, which means my tests are good for a device that hasn't learned and hasn't done adaptive roaming. In a real world, they could all be a different thing again, right? So once the iPhone feels ready and turns on adaptive roaming, this is what it looks like. You start to get channels and different triggers and a BSSID list. So the minute the RSSI that you're currently connected to hits neg71, it's going to go down those channels looking for those BSSIDs, right? And that's this kind of like priority list. No mention of links. This is here, and this has come out, and this is fairly new, but no mentioned links yet, okay? So I'm not finding anything here yet, right? Of course, we've got the external influencers neighbor reports, so we're getting top 8 coming out here. We're getting what's called the Broadcom channel spec, which actually is a hex encoding of the bandwidth, the channel, the band. Right. So I told you about boosted scores. I told you about all these algorithms and all that kind of stuff. What we can see and what we have learned is each link is treated like its own connection, and it has its own boosted RSSI and its own fire rate and its own congestion measures and all those different things, right? So I think, oh yeah, you know what? I've been doing this for a while. Let's figure this out. I can do this. Okay, so you know me. I look at the logs. That's what I do. Right, great. So yes, my first MLO log comes out. Okay, look, I've got 3 links, and it's on 6, and 2.4, and 5, and 6 is preferred in that moment. Fantastic. Excellent. And what were the links? Everything's redacted. Right, okay, so GDPR, CCPR, all those kind of things. BSSIDs and SSIDs are considered location, they're considered personal data, they're redacted, and you can't see them. So, am I going to be able to give this presentation? Yes, we can overcome some of this, right? So, who's used the Wi-Fi performance diagnostics log enhancer profile? A few of you. Have you ever installed the location profile? The location profile unlocks all of the BSSIDs, because all of a sudden you've just upped the amount of location information you're going to get, which includes BSSIDs and SSIDs. Excellent, we can continue. Oh look, my logs have got SSID names in them, BSSIDs. Happy days. And MLO data has come out, the number of links. I can see the band preferences. I can see information on a per link. You see that bottom one, 6 gigahertz preferred, 1, status 1. It is the preferred channel. Channels, RSSIs, packets, everything. Oh, hang on a minute. All the addresses, the local drink addresses and the MLD addresses are nil. So, okay, that's okay. Because actually, I'm telling the story as if I was just finding this out. I've been here before, and I've seen these, and I know I can get this information. And I know how to get this information. It's in the beta. No, I upgraded to 18.3. Public release, and what happened? Beta 18.4 has been delayed. So actually, for the last 2 weeks, I've been unable to see these things. So unfortunately, that means to actually code on the plane to try and figure a way to rejoin things and to actually get back to some level of sanity. So, this was me, I'm not sleeping. Okay, unfortunately I hit more stumbling blocks, right? Unable to join the network because of nearby networks. I put these on clean channels. There was no This is another one of those things that just popped up, and I don't know why. Limited capability. As I was changing SSID, I kept getting this limited capability sign. Network is configured with a separate network name for 6 gigs. I know this is the case, but I wasn't doing that. Maybe there was a hangover between me changing the SSID all the time. So, more problems. And I'm going to give you a few more as we come along. We'll see. Let's test it anyway. Right, okay, so this is my house. This is the ground floor of my house. And I put an AP, just one AP in that side area, because that's what used to be an external wall in between, so it's got some good thick properties to attenuate. On the left, you see the 6 gigahertz propagation, the middle is the 5, and the right is the 2.4, as scanned with Hammer. Okay, so, and then I go for a walk, and I expect that when I connect sitting under the AP, I'm going to connect on 6, and then I'm going to roam to 5 and to 2.4, and then there's going to be some indeterminate bit depending on which direction I'm going and all of those things. And I didn't use a VoIP call, and I didn't do those things. I just tried to keep it simple. Okay. So this is the result in terms of RSSI and data rate. Okay, and so what you see there over time is me walking and doing different tests. Each one of these dips is me walking away, turning around, and coming back. Okay, and each one of those dips had a different setup in terms of bandwidth, so 20 megahertz, 40 megahertz. As you heard from Jerry, you could influence, because the iPhone wants to go to higher bandwidths and so on, because what it's actually doing is wanting a higher data rate. A higher bandwidth equals a higher data rate. So it'll always prefer the better data rate. Okay? What you see is every time I went away, the iPhone would absolutely drop to 2.4 because it had to, because it ran out of steam on RSSI from the 6 and 5 gigs bands. And then when I turned back and came back, it would stay on 2.4, and I'd be standing right underneath the AP, and it wouldn't go. Right? Now, these are MLO, so, and every single test I did that. Now, I know Jerry showed you something different when he did it with a simulated power profile in his basement and all that kind of stuff. And what I've tried to tell you up until now is the real world is different for an iPhone. The minute you walk, the minute it detects motion, the minute you actually are in an environment with other things going on, it will be different. And therefore, trying to do these kind of experiments is just palm to face. So it always associates on 6, and it always sticks to 2.4 within these tests at least, right? So this is another slide from Prague. Go back and look at the video. In that, I had already determined that you could see the different outputs for each link. And when it's on one link, if you were doing 5 and 6, when it's on one of the links, it's not reporting on the other. And then this probably is the eMLSR. It's got a radio that's associated to 6, is listening on 6, but it's not necessarily jumping to 5. It might do, but as far as I can see, you're getting these -1 scores, or, as I've seen more recently, you're getting links values which are stale. They don't change. So here is a test done with at home in that environment I showed you with Ubiquiti U7 Pro. And as I walk away, you can see the RSI going down, and then you can see me turning around and coming back, and the signal strength coming up. So it's sticking to 5, right? And the blue line across the bottom, so actually there's 2 markers. There's a red marker on the top, right, which is showing a signal strength of neg 79 on the 6 gigahertz band, and there's a red marker down below, and the 2 of them are the same. That link value hasn't changed, and the blue line on the top is basically the reporting of the 6 gigs link whilst you're on 5, just not being reported. It's just static. Okay? So that link information hasn't come back, so the device doesn't know. And even though we're on separate links, it appears to me at least that they're being treated under similar roaming algorithms, and they need this sort of data rate adaptation to kind of go, I know I can get here, but even though the link, I'm standing under the AP, because it's not listening properly on 6, it doesn't know that that's a better channel, that even though it's wider bandwidth, that would give me a better experience. It doesn't know it. Okay? Because I use Ubiquiti, I can do a test back to the gateway, which is independent of my internet connection, which is very good, because where I live, I don't have good internet. So you can see when the left hand, when I was in neg 76, well, I did a speed test when I was at 2.4. Sorry, I was on 5, but I was as far away as I could be. And I got these speeds, link 5 speeds of 77, 129. Then I come and stand under the AP, and you can see neg 41 on my signal, and I'm getting 286. I don't believe the scores above. I'll have to talk to the Ubiquiti guys. But to me, that looks like I hit MCS 11, 20 megahertz on 5, right? So I was not using 6. I don't think, at least as far as I can see there was any benefit in terms of data rate of having multiple links. And that's 5 and 6, and we've got eMLSR, so I think that is correct. Okay, tri-band. 2.4, 5, and 6. This is where we expect that multiple links can be used. We could probably get some benefit from the 2.4 and either the 5 or the 6 at the same time. Okay, so we've done the same test and walked away and come back. And as you can see, as the signal is rising, again, we got that flat line. But that flat line is representing one of the links, and the other one is tracking. So you can see a purple line just above. So what we're connected to 2. The purple line is the 5 gigs being reported on, and the flat line is the 6. Now that's interesting because I had my 2.4 and 5 on 20 megahertz, so they weren't going to be the ones that were going to give me the best data rate. The 6 was, yet the 6 was the one that was flatlined and wasn't being updated. So the device doesn't know, as far as I can tell. Now you can see midway along, there isn't a sample update. And that's because there was a temporary dip in RSSI for whatever reason, maybe it was a body shield or something. And at that moment, it dropped down to below the trigger level, and it took a new measurement. It makes me think, I'd love to hear from the Apple guys, it makes me think it's like a power save thing, and it wouldn't take another sample until it hit a threshold. Now, what Apple do is they artificially lift that sampling threshold to neg 10. I think I've even seen 0 or plus 10. As a way to force it to take more samples. Like, come out of sleep, you need to measure this because your RSSI is below the threshold. Yes, you've got neg 30, I know you do. I'm setting it at neg 10 because I want to roam to... It's perfectly valid, and you would want to be on a high RSSI, but roam, right? Because I'm on a high RSSI on 2.4, but I want to roam to 6 because it's better. Well, what's going to be the trigger? So there's this artificial raising, and it happens, and every now and again you get it. Again, there's this sort of change, and eventually it does change to 6. Roam reason 8, right? So that is found a better ID, a better AP. So that's the roam reason it gave. What's interesting here, and I want you to take notice of this, sort of did 1 roam in the whole time. So if you see the roam scan count, 1. Okay, I'm going to boost, and you see the boosted RSI, the 6 came up trumps there, right? So that's good. Right, so I'm at WLPC. Jim Palmer walks into a room, and he says, you never guess what, in the way only Jim can do. I'm so excited. I got 2 Wi-Fi 7 APs on MLO, and they're on non-PSC channels. You want to come play? So I don't know why I said yes. I said yes. So quick scan, we're running out of time. So here they were outside, and I did a walk around, and you can see from the ANOVA site tracking using maps that it will actually sort of connect it to one and connect it to the other. And from here, you can basically see that it was a 5 and a 6, both on 40, and it moved around, but it was still doing the same thing where it was not really measuring the other link. So this is good, because I had Ubiquiti, now got Ruckus, right? So it kind of stuck, but it did change around a bit. It did some ping pong, right? So even though it's got multiple links, it still did some actual roaming ping pong. And here's the final thing I found with Apple. Some of your link rates are being reported as really high, like not possible high kind of thing. Okay, and the thing to note here, 25 roam scans. Could this be your non-PSC channels, Jim? All right, fine. So could we tell any difference? Well, maybe we could see some link selection there. I didn't see any notable aggregation. Was there any improvements to latency? And I couldn't see those because I hit so many problems, but maybe you can help. Wi-Fi 7 meetup tonight. I'll see you there.